Oh boys, how we feeling? How we doing? I'm happy that you clicked on this video. So when I was younger, I used to have a problem with trying to be something that I wasn't. I was always trying to check out, oh, that guy looks kind of cool. Let me see if I can be like him. Or I think that thing is kind of cool and I should kind of be like them. And all it is it's trend hopping. And I used to think there was something wrong with me. It's like, why do I do this? Why aren't I confident in who I am? It seems like everybody else is. And then you realize as you get older, most people are actually like that. We're all trying to constantly move to the next step. What is the next coolest thing I can take advantage of? What is the cool thing nowadays? And how can I be cool? That's everything everybody's optimizing for. Everything's about being cool. Everything's about really becoming anything besides what you actually are. And the game is quite literally the opposite. The game is the opposite of being something that you are not. The game is taking what you are and doubling down on it every single time. It's all we can do. We've all been born with certain things. We have certain strengths. We have weaknesses. Everybody has these things. The game is leaning in and doubling down on your strengths and forget the weaknesses. When the weaknesses start becoming an issue where it's like, man, okay, this thing for some reason is now actually inhibiting my growth, you just go take care of that weakness. You bring it up to where it's just good enough and it's not causing any problems. You don't do that. You leverage what you got. That's all we can do. And that's why today I'm really, really excited about this video, because it's about the undeniable standard of the Natural Crusaders. You probably have heard of me saying that, the Natural Crusader, and what are the Natural Crusaders? And versus me kind of, explaining out on a process, I figure I might as well just give you the nuggets on actually what does that mean? What does that actually mean? Why should I care about this thing? What is it that you're going to tell me that's going to change everything? I might tell you some things that you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I might tell you some things that you're like, dude, that doesn't do anything for me. I'm not going to have all the answers for you, but that is the entire point. Is my page is so you have your own playbook and you trust yourself. You trust yourself to make mistakes, to go down certain paths that you're like, man, I don't know how I'm going to come out of this. Being willing to chew off more than you can handle. And that is why I want to talk to you guys today about the undeniable standard that is the Natural Crusaders. But what is it to actually be undeniable? To be undeniable is to be unshakable. An undeniable man does not seek validation from anybody besides him, honestly, besides himself. He's basically trying to prove his own worth to himself every single day. And that's why he plays a very different game than anybody else, because there's not really anything anybody else can do to throw him off his own game, because he is unshakable. And because what he is going for is truly being exceptional in his own eyes. The undeniable man is magnetic. And it's magnetic because there is something about that energy that is just absolutely unlike anything anybody ever feels. And that's why when they get a taste of it, they only want more. And you don't care about these things. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand these are the side effects of the process. The side effects of the process is the things that you're actually in your head you think that will make you happy. The thing that you're like, if I just had this, I'd be good to go. You end up realizing that it doesn't mean a damn thing. And it's awesome to have those things as side effects, but only when they are side effects themselves. And every man truly has a choice, and that's to become undeniable or to be invisible, especially in today's world. And that's the truth. I think everyone has probably at one point felt invisible. And some people that haven't always felt invisible, I'll be honest with you, I never really felt invisible, but I always understood the respect I would have been able to garner and how high I could reach in life. And what's nice about this is you guys are watching it all in real time. I'm not even close to touching where I need to be touching. But that is why I have the camera up, and that is why I'm talking. And it's because I'm able to articulate these things of where I'm actually at the current point of time. And some people may look at me and be like, dude, you're killing it, man. What are you talking about? You're doing it. You're doing it doesn't stop. I wake up tomorrow and I have to make that choice again. And then I wake up the next day and I have to make the choice again to continuously become more and more undeniable. And that is why one of the greatest things when someone tells me, dude, you have to be on roids, bro. There's no way you're not on roids. It's one of the greatest feelings because they're earned allegations. I have become undeniable to a point where there's cope. And it's not about anybody else. It's because I know in my head I have passed my own tests, and by proxy, everybody else is going to. And this is where we talk about the side effects. The side effects come into play. And that is why I actually wrote out 14 rules that I'll continuously add on to as I learn more and more and more, and I become more sharp and I become more on the ball, and the more I'm able to articulate certain concepts, I'm going to continuously add on to these rules. And so I want to start reading them off one by one to you guys, okay? These rules are the undeniable standard. These are the rules of the Natural Crusaders. And rule number 1 is lead with your heart and die on your own sword. Lead with your heart because of the things that I've alluded to, because when you play everybody else's game of the trends and you decide to go down this path and it's because you think that thing is cool, you're doing the opposite by then not leading with your heart. You're leading with your brain. And your brain is actually logically dumb, believe it or not. Your instincts and your subconscious on a level is so much more smart than your conscious mind. That's the truth. It really, really is. And that is why I tell you guys to empty the energy clip, which is coming up as rule number 2. It's because it allows you to lean in on your heart a little bit more. It allows you to lean in on that instinct a little bit more. Every single one of these rules will lead into the next. So rule number 1, we have lead with your heart, die on your own sword. Every decision you make is your own. And even if you were to fail at that decision that you made for yourself because you were honoring your heart, is always going to be a net positive as long as you do not quit on yourself or your heart. You wear your heart on your sleeve, and whatever happens, it's going to hurt you. 110% it's going to hurt you. It's absolutely destroyed me in my life, wearing my heart on my sleeve. Absolutely gut-wrenching, just type of just heartbreak, and you feel like you've been backstabbed in so many different ways, and it's such a tough life to live. But by continuously choosing, like, I am not going to let anybody else make me feel a certain way to where I understand that this thing right over here, although seems to be more of like the feminine muscle, right? It's actually the masculine muscle. The heart really is. The heart is such a masculine thing because we'll do things for our heart. It's the reason why men are willing to die for ideas. And it's because our hearts are so big, man. Our hearts are so big. And that's why rule number 2 is empty the energy clip daily. And it's because by doing that, you are honoring your heart. You're doing things that are right by your own heart. And living that life, although exhausting, although some days you're like, dude, I don't have it in me to do this. You go to bed every single night and you pass out before your head hits the pillow versus you sitting up, and this is something I used to do, just looking up at my ceiling. I could never sleep, thinking of 85 different ways of how am I going to get the life I want to live. We all do it. We've all done it, you know, and a lot of people try to pretend like they've never done it. I'm telling you right now, anyone that's ever done anything special has probably been in that spot where they're looking up and they're like, man, you know, why isn't my life to where I want to? And then you start playing it out in your head as if, you know, you're just like this unbelievable war strategist that can just come up with a war plan to get everything you've ever wanted to from your brain. And that's not how things happen. They come from action. They come from cause and effect. And sometimes that effect leads to bad things. Fires start springing up. It's your job to fix them. But that's why we empty the energy clip daily, because the next day you're going to wake up, you're going to do the same exact thing. Rule number 3 is never go to bed hungry. And you're probably thinking, what the hell? Never go to bed hungry, Rami, or Uncle Rami, I should say. But I was told that, you know, my digestive system is going to be operating and then I'm not going to get proper rest. I think this is an awful way to think. I think that thought process in of itself is fragile. And when you're undeniable, you are anti-fragile. Doesn't matter. I can be on 3 hours of sleep. I'm still going to get up and do what I need to do. That doesn't mean I just go to bed 3 hours because I can. Like, oh, who cares, dude? But the point is when that happens, I'm not at all thrown off my game. I'm not telling myself, well, I only have 3 hours of sleep and that's why I can't think properly. I don't do that. I don't make excuses because I am undeniable. And that's how you have to think of these things. When you talk about being undeniable, that means no matter what, you show up at the top of your game. And that's why when I hear people talk about this and it's like suppression, it's like, well, I have to have a really dialed in system and I have to biohack my way of getting there. And there's nothing wrong with being a biohacker. If you have an edge in something where it's like, hey man, when I take magnesium before I go to bed, it helps me sleep better. Run it. That's not at all what I'm trying to tell you. It's a bigger picture. It's the idea that you need those things to operate. Sometimes it's easier just to get rid of them all and just tell yourself you're forced to operate at a high level without those things. But you can absolutely have those things, but understand that those things do not make you. And that's the problem, is we become at a mercy. It almost is like the supplement, we're supposed to use a supplement to assist us. And then what ends up happening is it becomes a crutch and it ends up abusing you. That thing that you need abuses you. And that is why I like to opt out of anything. I don't drink water really throughout my workout ever. I don't really take water bottles inside the gym. I just show up, headphones on, ready to operate, and I just go ham. And that's it. And I don't believe suppressing yourself as a dude in general, when we talk about not going to bed hungry, I don't believe in suppression. I'm someone who has a fat kid enthusiasm for food. Genuinely, a fat kid enthusiasm for food, and I love late night eating. So versus telling myself that this thing can no longer exist and constantly fighting that urge that I have every single night, what I've learned how to do is weaponize it. I've learned how to weaponize that thing, and I don't go to bed hungry ever. But instead, I set up my days in a way to where I don't have to go to bed hungry. That doesn't mean I just eat like an absolute pig whenever the hell I want because I'm just a gluttonous. We're not gluttonous. But the thing that you enjoy most versus you trying to tell yourself, make it not exist in your brain and tell yourself you don't want it, because that has never worked for anybody. You just make it work to your equation because it's your playbook. Taking it back from the very, very beginning, it's your playbook. You figure out how you operate within it. And the best thing to do is lean in on yourself. The habits that you have and the things that you genuinely enjoy, you make those things a reward. Which then brings us to point number 4, and that's to make every decision from strength. You never, ever make a decision out of weakness. I can tell you in my life, there's been so many times where I have made these decisions from weakness, and it's always come back to bite me in the ass. And the weakness is, I don't think I'm good enough to do this, so therefore I'm going to pick this opportunity. It is starting businesses that I thought, I could make it happen in 3 months because I bought into some marketing campaign that said you can get you can make X amount of dollars a month in 3 months if you just do X, Y, and Z. I've done it all. I really have. But every single one of those decisions was made because I knew I wasn't that guy inherently. I knew I could fake it for a few months, but my gosh, anything more than that, I don't think I could do it, which then forces me to make these decisions from weakness. Or the fact that most people hang out with other people that they don't see eye to eye with, but because they're so terrified of being lonely, they're not willing to let go of that and then be on their own to figure it all back out. Because they fill a void in their life that they're like, if I don't have this and it doesn't work out, what the hell do I do? I ended up distancing myself from these people, and it's awful. And it's the same exact way with guys that get into a relationship with a girl. They end up not talking to their friends. And then when the girl breaks his heart, what happens? They always come back and then they want to, pretend like we pick up where we left off. And those are all decisions from weakness. You make every decision from true strength. And strength is confidence and conviction that is earned every single day. Rule number 5 is food is fuel, not entertainment. But I also want you to enjoy your food. Make no mistake. You eat foods you love because there's enough foods on this planet that nourish you properly and have high levels of nutrition that also fuel you correctly. But when you look at food as fuel versus filling in an addiction, you think of food entirely differently and the food tastes different. I look at the food as I eat as nourishment to then be able to do what I need to do on a day-to-day basis, to where my thought patterns are sharper, to where my performance is that much better. And this is the edge that I have, is my freaking diet. My diet is so locked in, but with foods that I genuinely love. And I kid you not, although I eat ridiculously clean, by most people's standards, they would say that. I kid you not, I would not want to go out to eat and have any Zog slop from out. It's all garbage. It sounds like, the way I want you to think of it is if I told you to eat your cat or your dog's food, would you eat it? You'd be like, no, dude, that sounds disgusting. That is how I think of Zog slop. And it's because I have now trained my mind to think of food as fuel. And it's the greatest mental shift you'll have, because you'll look at everything as like, when you eat, you can feel your body being nourished properly. I personally, a lot of people ask me if I fast. I fast, my days are so weird. But the point is I don't eat until I have trained. That is personally how I do it. That's just my personal philosophy behind it. And I'll get into why and how I do that and why I do it, why I do. But regardless, When you think of your body as a car, as the Ferrari that you should think of yourself as, you would never give your Ferrari shit fuel. You just never would because you have too much respect for the car. But we don't have that much respect for our bodies. That I do, and it has shifted the way I think. It's made me a ton sharper. The way I think about food is entirely different, and it's that much more enjoyable. And I can tell when I eat garbage food right away. Rule number 6 is to burn the past. The past in my life, when I did not burn it, held a lot of power over me. All of my previous failures, all of the things that I did in my life that I am truly embarrassed by, just because I was trying to be something that I was not, which is why the first rule is always going to be lead with your heart. Because when you lead with your brain, it leads you to make really, really dumb decisions. And then you make decisions from weakness. It's funny how it all just domino effects all the way down. But the past is meant to be burnt. And that means both the good and the bad. Because your subconscious will pick up all the lessons needed from the past. You don't need to sit down and write down in your journal, these are the lessons I have learned. That's not how that works. You just have that kind of ready to go at your disposal. Your brain picks up on all the lessons you actually need to know. And you should trust yourself to say, my subconscious got me. I know I absorbed anything I needed to. Any of the lessons I actually needed to that were truly valuable for me in my journey, in my playbook, they've been absorbed. I don't need to sit down and articulate it. I don't need to do any of that. That's why when I sit down and talk with these videos, I don't need to deliberate and like come up with a script of figuring out X, Y, and Z. I don't. This is the first time I've ever actually had a computer up, and it's because I just want to remember all the rules, and that way I can explain them out. But I don't need to read from any scripts. I don't do things that way. And it's because I trust my instinct and my intuition to then be able to tell myself, oh, okay, these are the lessons I picked up on. Next time it pops up, I'll know what to do. But the problem is we think we have to harbor on the past. The only thing the past is going to do is hold you from the future. That is it. Because even if you had the best day of your life yesterday, it does not matter. All you have is right now. When you really understand that, you don't even plan out weeks in advance of anything. I'm not kidding. I don't know what I'm doing most of the time a few hours from now. I have an idea of what I need to get through in a day-to-day, don't get me wrong. I know there's certain things I need to get done, but I don't plan in my head like, oh, this is what I need to do. Because I just understand that everything that needs to be done is right now. The only thing the past does is make us overthink. We start going into the brain part, and it's like, oh, I need to really think about this, and I need to deliberate in my own brain, right, up in my own head, and think and think and think to nowhere. That's all that happens, because the whole point of it is that the rent is due every single day. Every single day the rent is due. And that is why we burn the past. You have to burn the past because you reconfirm in your mind that today is all that matters. Nothing else matters. And what's cool is when you live a life where, truthfully, if you had $1 billion or you were, you had $0 in your bank account, you're living the same exact way, that is the most dangerous man. That is an undeniable man because it doesn't matter. You're not even caring about the results of most things, which then makes you actually play the game way easier. It's just like if you were to play any sports growing up. I played a lot of ball growing up. When you're having fun out on the court, you play your best ball. Even if it looks like you're focused and intense and angry, you're having fun. When you're having fun with the game, you play your best. You're loose. You're not overthinking anything. The problem is when you start taking things a little bit too seriously, and that's by honestly holding on to the past and thinking that that's everything. It's not everything. Matter of fact, it's nothing. It's the past. You burn it and you keep moving forward. Regardless if you had the best day of your life or the worst day of your life yesterday. The beauty of it is you wake back up and it's a brand new day. You make any choice you want. From that day on, you can be anything that you want. You make the choice every single day you wake up. You make the choice of what you want to be and who you actually are. Rule number 7, no counting, just consuming. We don't count calories, and there's a bigger reason why we don't count calories. Aside from it capitulating most people's metabolism sources, because all they do is drop their calories and they up their movement, your body adapts. You're metabolically unhealthy, which is why you're always going against the grain. It feels like you're fighting just to keep the weight off that you had off. You end up messing yourself over. But even more than that, we don't live life by numbers. You don't live life by numbers. You live life for life. And the idea of you thinking like, I don't think people realize is if I only get into shape by calorie counting, what do you think you're going to have to do 10 years from now once you get into that shape? The only way you know how to get into shape is the only way you got into that shape. If I only got into shape by counting calories and monitoring my macros and dialing in like, oh, I have to make sure I do 25 minutes on the elliptical machine, that is going to be your process forever. It's a lot more difficult on the front end to do it with a lot more blasé, right? But the point of it is to find the few factors that you can really pull on to give you the most amount of return on your time. That is why my process is so much different than everybody else's. I don't monitor anything. I'm not planning out in terms of how much do I want to put in. All I do is make sure I got meat in the refrigerator. I got some potatoes that I can boil up. I got some eggs. And I know if I have a barbell and some dumbbells, even then, even if I had like a weighted dip belt and some pull-up bars or whatever, I'm good. I'm good because I understand what the actual needle moving things are. When you find the things that are most effective, you don't realize this, but going 0 to 90 is just you playing in the game. You can go from 0 to great with just trying and playing for a considerable period of time, because naturally you're going to want to get better at something. You'll get to 90 accidentally. Maybe I'm pushing it with the 90. But the point is from 90 to 100 is where the most difficult things are. And that is just fine-tuning the details. But people think it's difficult because it's complex. It's the opposite. It's actually stupid simple. Going from 90 to 100 is so simple because it's just hammering out on the fundamentals and getting that much better at the fundamentals. You dive so deep into the fundamentals and you know it so much better than anybody else's. It's not by finding these things from the ether. It's not unknown information. It's by diving so deep into the principles that you naturally have a process that looks that way to the outside. And that is why you should not be counting calories. Aside from it metabolically being horrible for natural lifters, people that count calories, you know who can count calories? Steroid users. Because they have their hormone profile completely locked in because they're injecting shit into their bodies. You're not doing that. We can't play the same game as them. The game you need to be playing as a natural is the metabolism game. Because if you have a healthy metabolism, it makes everything come downhill. There are people who magically say, man, gosh, like since my metabolism's got locked in, I feel like I have to eat more and more and more. And one thing you'll notice is actually really fun. You'll notice you'll actually get more hungry as you eat. While you're eating, you'll find yourself getting more and more hungry. That's when you know your metabolism's locked in. And guess what? It's what the calories are doing inside your own body. It's not calories in versus calories out as people like to make it out to be. Thermodynamics. I can go into the closed versus the open source. I can go down through all that, but it doesn't matter. It does not matter because at the end of the day, it's your hormone profile. That's the whole point, is you need to have everything in check. You want to make your body become super effective and efficient with its nutrition. It's what the calories are doing inside your body once you consume them. And if you have a healthy metabolism, believe me, that's how people gain muscle and lose fat at the same time for a long time. That's it. Rule number 8 is master desire. And you guys have heard of this if you've been around on my Instagram page, but that's dangling the donut. That is me mastering pleasure, because you want to know something? Food has power over me. Truthfully, it does. But versus it holding power over me, I decide that I am going to take the nuclear reactor that is my addiction of food, and I'm going to place it in a way that's going to give me more than anyone could possibly imagine. You'll be surprised at how hard I work out because I know there's a meal waiting for me afterwards. Crazy. It's why I actually train twice a day. It's how I've gotten myself able to train twice a day. Fun fact. And it's because in my head, I'm like, well, I want to eat more. How do I eat more? Probably should up my movement versus cut my calories. People forget that's also part of the equation. But guess what? I'm only working out. I shouldn't say only, it's a lot, but about an hour and a half a day. My first workout's usually about an hour. My second workout's usually about 20 minutes to 30 minutes, something like that. Hour and a half a day, which is a lot, to be honest with you. It actually is, especially in comparison to the way I used to do it. You know, I'd go an hour, maybe 5-6 days a week. This is way back. And then there was a time where I was like, I just train every single day now. And I love training every single day. And it's not just because I have a fitness page. I've been doing this prior to me having a fitness page. And it's because it locked me in a way that I could not explain. This is while I was working, 70, 80 hour weeks for a corporate company. But regardless, I was on the road all the time. And I would still work out every single day. And it's because it got my mind into a mode that was it was different. And that's why I did it. You know, that's exactly why I did it. And for me, mastering my desire of food and mastering the addiction that was my food, that's why I dangled the donut. And it's because it allows me to go downstairs, and guess what? The food tastes that much better when I trained before. That's why I do it that way. And a lot of people go to, well, the addiction doesn't exist, or I'm an addict, and I'm this, and I'm that, versus using it to your advantage. That's the game, is you want to use it to your own advantage. You can do that because it's your playbook. You don't have to play the game the way everybody else does. It's about weaponizing that pleasure that is so powerful and such a compelling feeling that it gives you so much more on the back end. You just have to set up a system in a way to where the addiction's actually serving you versus you being at the victimhood of your addiction. Rule number 9 is walk into the storm. Embrace chaos. When you put more on your plate than you can handle, a lot of people get really thrown off with this. And it's because it's uncomfortable. You feel like you can't catch your footing. You almost feel like you're out in the middle of the ocean and there is no floor. You can't put your feet on the floor of the pool or the ocean sand. You can't do any of that. You just have to sit there and float, and that's how you feel. And that makes people super uncomfortable. But I always say desperate times call for desperate measures, right? When your back is pushed up against a wall, it's typically when you do your best work because you have to. And you're not operating from the conscious part of your brain. You're operating from the subconscious part of your brain because you're just in your head being as resourceful as possible. You're not thinking about all these things. When you have too much room for thought, this is where bad decision making happens. It's exactly where bad decision making happens. It's unbelievable. And I even notice this with myself. If I don't expend enough energy, I notice that there's a lot of roaming thoughts that start entering my brain. Things that like my decision making isn't as sharp as it usually is. I'm so used to being in such a state where I just make decisions on the fly that I can continuously do that. But you're not doing yourself any favors when you have 18 different thoughts in your mind trying to come up with the best possible solution. But when you have so much more on your plate than you can handle, and you genuinely don't know, you're like, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to figure this out. I have no idea how I'm going to get out of this. But every single time you'll make it happen. You just will. And it's because you have now given yourself permission to be like, you want to know, you're giving yourself a vote of confidence. Listen, I don't know how I'm going to pull it off, but I just know I'm going to pull it off. Because I got me. If I got me and I'm good, I empty the energy clip every single day. I give everything I got every single day. I pour my heart out on the line any opportunity I possibly can, which is in everything that I do in my day-to-day. And that is embracing the chaos. That's embracing chaos. You know what? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to figure this the fuck out, but I know I am. And I know the way I'm going to do this is just one foot over the other. That's it. One foot over the other and just go make it happen. Because eventually I'm going to keep walking. I'll keep walking. I'm just going to keep on marching forward. Doesn't matter. I can keep getting knocked down. I can get pushed back. Doesn't matter. I'm still going to always stay coming. And eventually the world caves. And that is why I believe in walking into the storm, is because that is where your best work is. Your best work isn't from a perfectly sized up cubicle and everything is lined up and you have this here and you have this here and you feel comfortable. That's never how anything magic has gotten done. It's through being so unbelievably and so uncomfortably uncomfortable that you're just like, all right, I have to figure this out. It forces you to get creative. It's new insights. It's a new way of thinking. And what's beautiful about it is you learn so much about yourself. That's where we're like, you know, when you hear people on vacation, I'm going to go find myself on vacation. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. You find yourself through the most uncomfortable, brutal moments. That's when you find out about yourself. And that is what embracing chaos does, because guess what? Now you have a real idea of what you're about, what's actually inside your heart, the type of lion you actually are. And now you have supreme self-awareness. It's delusion, but it's delusion in a weird way. It's delusion about the future, not where you're actually at right now. You're objective about where everything's at because you're forced to be objective in the reality you live when you're in the storm. You can't tell yourself it's sunshine and rainbows when it's fucking storming and there's a huge tsunami wave coming over your head. But you just know you'll take care of it. That's the delusion. That's the only part of the delusion, is that you know you'll take care of it because you got you. One foot over the other, you'll figure it out. That is the vote of confidence you should be giving yourself. Rule number 10, love this one. Ignore your own hype. When people start having good things happen to them, they start getting so high on their own supply. And there is such a difference between someone with real confidence and conviction and someone who you can tell has never had that before. You can see it. It's immaturity. You can tell you've never been in this seat before where things are working. And that is why ignoring your own hype is one of the best things you can do, because guess what? Let's say you were to get all those compliments you're dying to have, right? A lot of you guys want the praise, you guys want the notoriety, you guys want to be remembered. And those are things that I'm not telling you those are bad. I'm not here to tell you, you shouldn't feel that way, you should feel that way. That's not my place. But what I am here to tell you is that those compliments are going to run its course. I have never gotten a compliment in my life that has lasted more than 15 seconds. Maybe I'm being facetious, maybe a minute. I'll give myself 60 seconds. And what happens after? It's like a drug. You need more and more and more, and the more compliments you get, the more you need to get used to it. It's actually a drug. It's legitimately a drug. And I see a lot of people fall into this trap where they get so high in their own supply to where they think they're above the work that got them the praise. When you stay grounded into the process, you stay truly grounded inside that process by itself, because you're so enthralled with the process you deliver on every single day. You're so locked in to your mission and your purpose and your pursuit in this life that nothing else matters. I could get literally 1,000 compliments at this point in my life. And I can have 1,000 people tell me I'm a piece of shit and you're a loser and what do you know, bro? You're just a loser. And I feel the same exact way about myself. No different. You want to know why? Because I don't buy into my own hype. I know exactly what I am. I know exactly what I'm about. And I know what I'm going to have in my life. I'm confident in everything that I'm going to have. And there is a delusion to it. But it's because of what I'm willing to put down every single day. I just know that the needle is moved every single day by doing the right things day after day. That's it. And the right things doesn't mean correct on paper. Please do not mistake my words. It does not mean it's correct on paper and this one sizes up to be perfect. It just means you keep on pushing forward with what you got. That's it. You're resourceful with what you got and you just keep on moving forward. And one thing I'll tell you about winning breeds complacency in people. When you win, you want to take your foot off the gas. Ooh, you want to know why? Because people start complimenting you. Ooh, this feels good. I feel great. This is nice. Wrong. You have to nip that in the ass. You have to nip it, literally cut it off at the knees. Because that's what happens. You sleep on a win and you wake up with a loss. And you've seen that with anybody in business, in sports, anyone that's done anything special. You can see the people that got complacent on their wins. And they got high on their own supply. And that's what happens is you lose that fire because you're doing it for the wrong reasons. That's why most people have a pretty bad fall. It's a sharp fall from that level of high too. That's what sucks about it, is because you've lived life all the way up there and you fell all the way down. But what's great about that is everyone's going to go through it. That doesn't mean if I tell you this lesson now you're going to magically get it. But you realize that when you lose everything and you start back at zero and you build it back up, you're just in a spot where you're so much more dangerous than you were the first time you grabbed it. There's a temperament there that you can't learn it in a book. You can try to reiterate it in your own words, but it's going to sound stupid as fuck until you actually feel it internally, what it's like to lose everything and then grab it back. From all the lessons that you lost, from all the lessons that broke your heart, that left you with nothing, man, there's nothing like that, because that's character. And at the end of the day, that is everything. Character is everything. When you don't buy into your own hype, that shows character. Rule 11 is live by your standard. And this is why I talked about in the last one, we talked about never buying into your own hype. Because when you live life by your own standard and you refuse to compromise that standard for anything or anybody, first off, I'm going to tell you this right now, life gets a bit more lonely because there you start realizing when you have a high standard for yourself, nobody even has a remote standard for themselves. And that makes it very difficult because if you don't allow bullshit into your own life, how are you going to allow anybody else's bullshit? You'll allow it just because you're a kind person, but for an extended period of time, and if the standard drops too low, it's impossible. And you can try to fake it and be like, yeah, man, but you know that there's clear friction. You're lying to yourself. And that's one thing I'll never do is I won't lie to myself. I'm not here to lie to myself. I can't do that. I've tried to do that in my past life. I'm happy with this, man. I'm content. I'm so happy with everything. And it was just bullshit. It was just because I was hoping if I told myself it enough times, I would just believe it. And it never worked. It never worked. Because standards define the man. Standards define the man that you are. If every day your standard is up here and you refuse to compromise, first off, you're going to get everything that you want and more. But the type of people you're going to attract in your life are going to be such high quality. And the family that you have is going to look at you with an entirely different respect level. Because you can't fake a standard. You don't wake up one day and be like, yeah, well, I'm going to put the standard on, I'm going to put it on the side burner here. That's not how that works. Your standard is a fundamental part of your heart. These are things I know that need to be done every single day. And I know I need to lay it all out on the line. And I know that this goal that I have, and I like using the word goal, but point is the pursuit that I am after in this life before I die means so much more to me than how I feel or how I'm doing or even my well-being. That's why I don't care if I'm on 3 hours of sleep. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me because my standard and what I'm after in my life means so damn much to me that it's not a factor. And when you live life this way, it doesn't matter if you get all the compliments or everyone just booing you from the stands. It does not matter. Doesn't matter. You won't care. And it's because you just know what needs to be done on a day-to-day basis. It's as easy as that. Rule 12 is to reject all shortcuts. And although this technically could be, making decisions from strength, I kind of want this to be separate because I think shortcuts are looked at a little bit differently in people's minds. And obviously, if you nail down that previous rule of making every decision from strength, you won't ever take a shortcut. But shortcuts are different because there's a huge difference between seizing an opportunity that's going to get you something because it's a smart move on the board and the shortcut. When you shortcut and you try to find, and this is where I want to make this a separate rule because it is nuanced. I actually don't believe being lazy about finding easier ways of doing things is a bad thing. I actually think it's a great thing because I think you're being resourceful. I think you're actually being smart. Why would I waste an abundance of energy where I can use it somewhere else? You know what I mean? Because I only have a certain amount of hours in a day, and I know in my head, if there's an opportunity that you need to seize, you seize it. But shortcuts are a bit different. Shortcuts, an example within fitness, is steroids, right? Technically, you get to your goal quicker, but there's a mental process that takes place, and that means that you need something to perform. You weren't man enough, and I'm not saying this actually to people because people are doing this for far different reasons. I'm not here to be a dick and be an asshole. But when you do something the hard, natural way, especially with weightlifting, we'll use that as the example, you learn a lot more about yourself than the guy who took the shortcut and decided he wanted to inject himself. Because you're shortchanging yourself. By forcing yourself to learn how to do all of this stuff naturally, handling discouragement, forced to get resourceful and to learn what the actual fundamentals of this game is, makes you that much more knowledgeable. You have that much more you have an ability to articulate certain concepts on a level that no one else is. That same philosophy of just the steroid accusations can carry over into everything else. Everything. There is literally nothing when it comes to taking a shortcut that comes out of a positive. Because what the shortcuts do is they rob you of growth. They rob you of real growth. I'm talking about internal growth, character growth. Problem is everyone's out here chasing the feature versus the actual thing. It's why most young dudes think that if they get money and they have a pretty girlfriend, that everything will change, right? They think everything will change. But what you don't realize is the girl that you gamed or the money that you walked into, you're still the same cat. And when your character isn't built as a result of that, you end up being left empty. People still look at you like less. You still understand that there's that inferiority complex that is earned because you allowed it to happen, because you took shortcuts. When you don't take shortcuts and you do it the long, boring, strenuous way, when I say long, it's actually not even long. It actually happens quicker, ironically. The boring path is typically the one that'll get you what you want to a lot quicker because the needle moving shit, that gets shit done is agonizingly boring. And people that try to shortcut that process end up wondering why I always lose. Because winners understand that this is the work that works. And I'm just going to hammer it over and over and over again. And when you start thinking of things in a way, it's like I'm trying to build my character. I'm not trying to attain this feature or have this car. Those things come on accident. Those things literally come as a side effect of building your character. Because the kind of guy that has that character, the guys that you're looking at like, man, like I wish I could be like him. And there's guys that will probably have ridiculous sums of money that will look at a guy who has far less and they'd say, you know what, I would switch spots with him. Deep down in their hearts, they would switch spots with him. And it's because you can't fake that. You can't fake that internal conviction that everybody's after. It's that confidence that you're looking for. And it's confidence in your character. And confidence is earned. It's not something that you can just hack. Oh, just frame it this way and frame it this way. That's not how that works. Because you'll walk into a room to where you can't implement those tools and hacks that you've been using, and you're fucked. So versus just taking any shortcut that comes your way and making every decision from weakness, do it the long way, because I promise you it's going to forge your real character. And that's what you're after, believe it or not. It's undeniability. Undeniability is character. That's something that cannot be denied. It's a swagger, it's a charisma, it's a charm that you cannot explain. And some people have it and some people don't. That's the truth. But the people that have it are playing the character game. Rule 13. Wear your scars proudly. Wear them all your blemishes, all of your insecurities, you wear them with pride. Because the scars tell your story. Facial scars, mental scars, all of it. It's your story. You wear that with pride. I'm going to tell you right now, this is something I struggled with. I tried to hide my scars growing up. I didn't want anyone to understand anything about me. I was terrified of being vulnerable, terrified of all of it. And it's not that I'm the most vulnerable person today. Still have a lot of work to do. But not vulnerable in the way where I talk about my feelings. It's vulnerable in the way to where those feelings don't hold power over me. That's the difference. Because when you wear your scars proudly, you can go through life, and even for me, you guys know this, you guys always be cracking jokes on me. Uncle Rami, how do you have gray hair, bro? You're only 28 years old. I wear it with pride. I wear it with pride, damn straight, dude. I'm a wise 28-year-old. That's why I got gray hair. Because I'm a man. That's why I got gray hair. I'm a fucking wise ass man. Obviously, I'm being facetious. But that's my point, is you wear it with pride. This is who I am. Why would I hide it? Why don't you dye your hair, Uncle Rami? Why would I dye my hair as a dude? Why would I ever do that? That's me. I wear all of it with pride, especially physical features that I might not like. Why does that matter? It's the character. That's the beauty of your scars, is your scars tell a story. I've got scars all over my body. I don't know if you guys ever noticed this. This is a scar I had. I'll tell you guys a fun story through this real quick. So I got this when I was in kindergarten. Long story short, we had 4 people in our class, super small school, and it was my time to be line leader. I was pumped because they made make sure like the other 3 kids got to be line leader before me. It was my time. I love leading. I'm like, hell yeah, dude, it's my time to shine. There's this girl who thought she was funny, and she tried to cut in front of me. And like the line that I am, I basically just went out and do a sprint, and we raced, and I dusted her. Problem is, you know, when I talk about never buying into your own hype, I actually looked behind me and started laughing at her. And I turned around and there was concrete walls inside the school, like very sharp concrete edges. And by the time I turned around and was done laughing at her, I bop right into the wall, head split open. I needed 20 stitches, blood poured all over. I'm actually surprised I survived. Probably why I have a few screws loose, to be honest with you. But that's a stupid example, but like I love that story. Where before, like, it may have been embarrassing. It's like, really, you ran into a wall, bro, after dusting a chick in a race? Like, she got the last laugh or whatever. And I could say, well, I got the last laugh because I got a cool scar now. So it worked out in its best possible way. My point is even mental scars that you have, you wear them with pride. You wear your experience on your face. That's the beauty of experiences, even the ones that you know, you look back on, we all have them, but ones that I'm disgusted by, you know, like you're disgusted because it's like, man, that kid was just trying so hard and he just could never figure it out. You know, he was alone. He was trying to figure it out by himself. He didn't feel like he could talk to anybody because he had no one that he felt like he could talk to and give him the right advice. And even when I did get advice and I would take it, it always led to a bad spot. And finally I just realized, I'm like, I'm just going to wear all these scars proudly. And I'm going to move forward. And I'm going to start having confidence in myself and my own way of doing things, you know? And that may sound jaded, and possibly I do feel jaded, but I don't hold any resentment. That's the difference, is I take all of my fuel internally, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I just move forward with it every single day. It's all we can do. Last one, face fear as a challenge. Fear is an opportunity to iron out some kinks in your brain. I used to have a huge fear for failure. Oh my gosh, I used to absolve myself of competitions because I was worried I would lose to this guy because I think he's better than me. It was that bad. I cared about winning that much. That was when I was a young kid. And even then, like through older age, you know, I never wanted to play a game I couldn't win. And what happens is actually, in a weird way, I'm happy that I came from that spot, because what I ended up doing is going so far the other way to where anything that scared me I would do. And that led to some pretty stupid decisions in my life, quite dumb ones. But I had to do it because I was so far this direction that I had to overcorrect. But what's nice is I found the perfect middle. I found the fine line that everybody's after in this life. You know, like, you understand that you should not just enter competitions just to enter them. There needs to be, you know, a certain risk reward, or just for love of the game. That's also a reason to do it. Even if you have nothing to gain, it's just love of the game. And when you start using fear as the compass, it actually helps you make better decisions, because at a certain point, you're going to learn how to overcome that fear. And the only way to overcome fear is just by getting over it, by doing the thing that you're scared of. It's the best way to do it. But you take it a step further, and what ends up happening is you learn how to leverage that tool that is fear. You actually end up operating at your best. If I play a game and I'm super terrified of losing, I am locked in. When I do my best work under pressure, every single time I do my best work under pressure. And so regardless, let fear drive you forward, because courage is the currency of the undeniable. These rules define what it means to be undeniable. And that's why I wanted to really explain this out in a long form video. I wanted to give you guys, because now you guys have an inclination of why I explain things the way I do. Now you understand that some of the shit that I didn't understand what you were saying now probably makes a little bit more sense. And for me, the only game I've ever cared to play, and I realize this recently, is to become so undeniable to a fact that there's not anybody that I feel like could ever size me up. And it's not because, oh, I need to have power over everybody or everything. It's just because I know I'm capable of it. And if I know I'm capable of it, then I have to make it happen. And for me, being undeniable is everything I've ever been after in my life, even from when I was a young kid. I think it's genetic. It could be upbringing, could be anything. But regardless, I appreciate you guys being here, and I hope this is well worth your time. If there's anything that you boys are looking for specifically, please drop it down in the comments. And if people like those comments, give those a thumbs up. And that way I know to make a video on it. And if there's anything that you guys want to learn a little bit more about, any of the lessons that I just spoke on, I'll articulate it a little bit deeper. Obviously, it's a very long video, but I didn't need to go super deep into each concept. But you just let me know, drop it, and I got you. But you got to get some thumbs up. I'm not going to sit here and cap. You got to earn it. You got to earn that thing. So you got to make sure it's a good comment. So anyways, I love you guys very much. Uncle Rami out. Peace.